Good afternoon from the kitchen, folks. Today I'm going to be making that classic British Sunday dinner dish of roast beef and Yorkshire pudding. So here's my beef joint. It's a topside and it weighs just under a kilo. So here's a close-up. So 0.988 kilograms and a decent joint of beef. Topsides are one of the better ones. So I'm just going to pop that in a dish for the time being. So here's a roasting bag. So first of all, I'm going to chop some onions, which is going to go with the beef in the roasting bag. So I'm just popping my onion into the roasting bag, as you can see. Now I've got my onion in the roasting bag, I'm going to add the beef joint. There we have it. And then into the roasting bag I'm going to put a dash of mixed herbs, just dried Italian mixed herbs, some salt and some pepper. Not too much, a few dashes. I'll shake around. I'm then going to add a knob of butter. And I'm going to stand my bag up like so, and I've got half a glass of water and I'm just going to add that in there as well. So the bag is watertight, and then all I need to do, this is a foil roasting bag. You can get the plasticky ones. I prefer these foil ones. Just fold it over and hey presto. That goes back in there. So here's my beef joint in the roasting bag in an oven dish. It's going to go in the oven at 200 degrees for about an hour and 20 minutes. So roughly you would say 25 minutes per 450 grams plus 25 minutes for a medium joint. And I want it to be a little bit pink in the middle, but not rare by any means. You know, definitely medium is what I'm going for. So I've got lots of other things to put in the oven, so I shall get that on at 200 also. So I've got two ovens. I've got the beef in a standard convection oven, and then I've got a fan oven just here, which I'm going to put the vegetables and the Yorkshire pudding in. So I'm just chopping my onion here. And of course, there's that wonderful debate as to whether this is Sunday lunch, Sunday tea, or Sunday dinner. And the definitive answer is, up north, if it's a cooked meal, it's dinner, irrespective of what time of day it's served. I'm now adding some potatoes into the mix. I leave the skin on the potatoes because it's good for you. What's the point in removing it? I like potato skin. I'm going to give them a dusting of dried mixed herbs again. I love my mixed herbs. I'm going to use something called chip seasoning. This is something that you normally have on chips. In East Yorkshire and Hull and places like that, it's quite popular. And it gives a nice kind of spicy flavour to the potatoes. I'm going to add some onion granules, some paprika. It's probably the equivalent of a teaspoon of each that I'm using. And I'm going to drizzle the lot with olive oil. So here's my potatoes. I'm going to put them in the oven at 200 with the beef. And now, pumpkin. So I've just cut into my pumpkin, as you can see. I've removed the seeds. These seeds are completely edible, but I'm saving these. I'm going to dry these ones out because I will use them to plant for next year, so I can get some pumpkins growing in my garden. So the pumpkin skin is completely edible. I'm not removing it. It tastes absolutely fine. It has a nice texture. And I'm simply going to cut my pumpkin into fairly large pieces and roast it in much the same way that I am doing the potatoes. So I've filled my tray with pumpkin and I've still got all this left, which I'll use in other dishes this week, but now I'm going to spice this up a little bit. So the pumpkin's in the tray. I need to add some oil because I'm roasting it. Now pumpkin doesn't have a lot of flavour, it's quite a watery vegetable actually. So we need to add flavour to it, and we need to bring its natural flavours out. So here's about a teaspoonful of paprika, a teaspoonful of onion granules, a teaspoonful of chip seasoning, chip spice, about a teaspoonful of cayenne pepper. Now this is really hot, so I don't want to put tons of this on, but I want it to have a little bit of a bite. I'm then adding some salt. And finally, what brings this all together is a drizzling of honey. Now, if you've ever had honey roasted parsnips, you'll know that honey works on roast vegetables, and it works just as well with pumpkin. A little bit more oil to finish. So my pumpkin's done, and that's now going to go in the oven at 200 degrees for about 30-35 minutes. Let's think about Yorkshire puddings. And 100 grams of plain flour. Okay, this needs to cool down now, so I'm going to put it in the fridge for 30 minutes, because when this hits the oven, I want the temperature differential to be as strong as possible. Right, it's time to find something green in the garden. And I'm going to settle on a cabbage today. So not too big, but just about right for two people. So I'm just going to give my cabbage a little bit of a wash. Now there's not a lot there, so I'm going to supplement it with a bit of Swiss chard from the front of my garden. I'm just giving my chard a rinse. I love all the colours that the chard comes in. You've got the reds on this side, yellows just here, and then we've got the whites with the green on this side. It's a real rainbow vegetable, and it tastes just like spring cabbage. I'm just roughly chopping it. There's no need to be too tidy. The stalks are completely edible, the leaves are completely edible. Great plant. I'm just going to add this into the same saucepan that I've got the cabbage leaves in. A scattering of salt. And then I'm going to mostly fill the pan with cold water. That's fine. Lid on, and that will boil and steam. So now it's back to my Yorkshire pudding. So I've got a metal dish here, and I'm going to put some oil in the bottom of the dish. And I need this to go in the oven and get really hot. So now there's some coordinated activities taking place. I need to take the pumpkin out of the oven, because that's done. I'm going to pour some of the oil into this dish. With my other oil, I'm going to put this back in the oven, and I'm going to turn the oven up to 220, because the Yorkshire pudding needs to be hot. And when I take that mixture out of the fridge, I want it to sizzle as it hits that fat. So I think it's fair to say that the pumpkins look quite nice. Nice and orange colour to them, and I'm sure that they'll taste very good. I'm going to put them back in the oven for 5 minutes just at the end, just to warm them through again. So much coordination when you're doing a dinner like this. I need to put some water now into a frying pan. I'm going to use about a pint. And this is going to be for my gravy. So I've just turned the gas on underneath. I'm adding some mixed herbs to the water. I'm adding some onion granules. I'm going to add a little bit of Vietnamese coriander from my garden to give it a nice aromatic flavour. I'm going to add a stock cube. I can hear the oil bubbling away in the oven, so it's time to get my batter for the Yorkshire pudding out of the fridge. I'm going to give that a good stir round. Let's get the oil out. Let's get the magic happening. So what you want is a mixture where you've got the biggest temperature differential between the pudding batter temperature and the oil, so it really will rise up the side. So that needs to go back into the oven. And that's going to go in there for about half an hour, 35 minutes or so. It's time to get the beef out of the oven. Avoid the steam bath. That looks great. So just look at that beef joint in the roasting bag. So I very carefully need to get it out of the dish. The dish is very, very hot indeed. And there's been some leakage, which is fine. That's why it's in a dish. Because if that had happened on the worktop, it wouldn't have been good. Take this, and I'm going to put it into the gravy. And this is where we're going to get the beef flavour from, in the gravy. So I want to get my beef now and take it out of the roasting bag. Because the key thing here now is for the beef. You can see there's a little bit of blood as I'm stabbing into it, but that's alright, that's not going to be too much. I want the beef to rest. And I've put the beef back into the dish because, as you can see, there's juice coming out of the top of it. So I don't want to cover my chopping board. And any juice that I can keep will go into the gravy. I now need to let it rest for about 15-20 minutes before cutting it. So I've just added a bit of cornflour to my gravy to thicken it. And I'm just giving that a good mix in. There we go. So just a very small amount of pinkiness in the middle. It's a lovely colour actually. And of course I've got to try a bit. Oh. Roast beef is the king of Sunday dinner meats. So I'm just going to put the beef on a metal tray. And I'm going to put a bit of gravy on it to keep it moist. I'm going to turn the Yorkshire pudding off now and get that out. And then I'm just going to slip the beef back in just so it warms through a little bit. Come on, that's not bad. So there's my Yorkshire pudding. It's an unusual shape, but it's risen. Look at the depth of the dish. I'm very happy with that. Now it's time to draw all of these things together. So there we have it, folks. Roast potatoes, roast pumpkin, Yorkshire pudding, Swiss chard and cabbage, gravy, and of course the star of the show, roast beef. Sunday dinnerlicious. That doesn't look too bad, does it? I'm pretty pleased with this, to be honest. The film that you've just watched is a Moss Home and Garden production. You can find more by going to www.mosshomeandgarden.co.uk. I'd just like to say thank you very much for supporting my YouTube channel and for watching my films. It really is very much appreciated. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to my YouTube channel in order to receive future updates about the home and garden films which I upload. You can find my YouTube channel by going to www.mosshomeandgarden.co.uk. Please click on the red subscribe button. When you've done that, a little bell will appear. If you press that also, then you'll get future updates about the films which I upload. If you like my films, if you like my style of filming, then you might also like my travel channel, which you will find by going to youtube.com/Stuart Moss or type in If you'd like to get Moss Home and Garden updates on Facebook, then please open Facebook and do a search for Moss Home and Garden, and you will find the page. If you like the page, then you will get future updates on there. And if you'd like to connect on Instagram for home, garden and travel photography, as well as some stories, then my username is StuMoss, STUMOSS. If you'd like to connect on Twitter, then my username is @StuartMoss. And if you'd like to contact me about film usage or any other issue, please just email me on stewmosshomegarden@gmail.com. Once again, thank you very much for supporting my channel, for watching my films. I do appreciate it. I'd just like you all to have a great day.